So, you think golf is safe? Think again. From tee shots that hit harder than karma to fans getting knocked out cold, these are the 20 most painful shots in golf history. Starting with a shot that turned a perfect day at the President's Cup into an absolute nightmare. One swing, one brutal mistake, and someone paid the price. This is Keegan Bradley at the 2013 President's Cup. It's opening day of the Team USA versus the international squad. The atmosphere is electric, fans are packed along the fairways, and Bradley is fired up for team competition. He's known for his intensity, his passion, the way he wears his heart on his sleeve. He steps up to the tee, takes his stance, and absolutely rips into it. But the ball doesn't go where it's supposed to. Instead, it screams off course, a rocket heading straight into the packed gallery. And when I say straight into the gallery, I mean dead center. The ball slams into a man's head with sickening force. A direct hit like it was personal or something. The poor man drops instantly and people around him just freeze, like it was for real. Meanwhile, Bradley's left standing there, probably wishing he could take that swing back 1,000 times over. The man eventually recovered, thank goodness. But this moment, it became one of those shots nobody wants to remember but can't forget. Next up, this fan also found out the hard way that standing near the line of fire isn't always the best idea. So it's 2018 at Carnoustie, and Tiger is grinding through his second round. He's not in contention, but it's still Tiger. So naturally, the galleries are massive. Everyone wants a glimpse. Everyone wants that perfect video for Instagram. On the par 411th, Tiger pulls out an iron for his second shot. He sets up, takes a rip at it, and oh no. The ball takes off like a bullet, but it's going sideways. Way sideways. There's a guy standing near the green with his phone up recording the whole thing. He's got the perfect angle. Tiger in full focus. This is going to be great content, except the ball is coming right at him. And it's coming fast. Wham! Direct hit. The ball smashes into his head and ricochets off his phone. The guy stumbles backward, dazed, wondering if what just happened actually happened. Luckily for the story, his phone keeps recording the whole thing. And here it is, in case you want a POV of one of the greatest golfers in history hitting you directly. But hey, to be fair to Tiger, he walks right over, shakes hands, apologizes, even hands over a signed glove. The whole gentlemanly routine. The fan later posted the video online, proudly calling Tiger his dear friend. At the end, it was painful? I bet. But was it worth it? Apparently, yes. Now listen, there's getting hit by a golf ball. And then there's getting roasted by Phil Mickelson right after. This poor guy experienced both. The annual memorial tournament at Muirfield Village Golf Club. And Phil is doing what Phil does best. Hitting bombs off the tee with absolutely no idea where they're going. He's loose, he's confident, he's dangerous. On the 15th hole, he unleashes a drive that starts left and keeps going left, way left, into the gallery. And standing right there, just inside the ropes, is a course marshal named Joshua Stanfield. Now, Stanfield sees the ball coming. He knows it's in his general area, but he doesn't move. Why? Because surely it'll miss him, right? I guess he thought that golf balls always miss you when you stand still. Of course, he was wrong. The ball smacks him right in the head, smack on the cap. It bounces off his skull and flies into the rough across the fairway. And this guy is now seeing stars. That's when Phil walks over, glove in hand, ready to apologize. And then he says, if your head was a touch softer, I'd be in the fairway. Oh, the audacity, the timing. Peak Mickelson. Stanfield is a cool guy, so he laughed it off, took the signed glove, and hooked Phil's hand. Later said it hurt like hell, but was totally worth it. Yes, because getting roasted by lefty is priceless. Which brings us to this next one. You know what's even funnier? When things happen almost exactly the same way, and you're like, no way this isn't scripted. We're talking about Robert Allenby at the 2010 Australian Masters. It's the same situation, same brutal result as what happened to Keegan Bradley years later. The Australian was playing in front of his home crowd when things went horribly wrong. He stepped up to the tee, took his swing, and immediately knew the ball was heading somewhere it shouldn't. It sailed deep into the packed gallery, and before anyone could react, it slammed into a spectator right on the head. The man went down instantly. Medical staff arrived with an ice pack, and eventually, the spectator was carted off. souvenir in one hand, ice pack pressed against his head with the other. The thing was that just like Bradley would do years later, Allenby didn't shout 4, leaving the crowd with no warning before impact. It was one of those moments that reminds you just how dangerous golf can be when a small, hard ball traveling at high speed meets an unsuspecting spectator. Next up, in a slightly lighter tone, here's what happens when a YouTube golf star with over 1 million subscribers tries to do something fun, but ends up embarrassing himself. Let's say you're Garrett Clark and you're hosting your own live event. Naturally, you expect a lot of things: massive crowds, fans everywhere, maybe even a little chaos. But the last thing you expect is to absolutely smoke one of those fans with your opening tee shot. Unfortunately for him, that's exactly what's about to happen. The Good Championship in Scottsdale, Arizona, was supposed to be a celebration. Good bringing their massive online fan base together for a real tournament with a $100,000 purse on the line. Clark, one of the channel's biggest stars, was standing on the first tee surrounded by fans. They were close, really close. Too close, honestly, for someone who isn't a PGA Tour pro. He stepped up, took his swing, and pull-hooked it hard left. The ball turned into a missile, screaming straight into the packed gallery, and nailed a young fan. The crowd gasped, someone screamed, and Clark collapsed to his knees. If you zoom in, you can actually see the mix of embarrassment and fear on his face. Anyway, the fan ended up okay, but the moment went viral instantly. Clark later called it one of the worst feelings ever, and honestly, it shows. Coming in next, I think we forget sometimes that pro players are human too, and just like the rest of us, they have bad days. But what Tiger Woods went through in 2010, that was a really bad day. The kind where you hit 3 different people with errant shots and run out of signed gloves to hand out as apologies. So, the background. Tiger was returning from a 3-week break due to a neck injury, playing without a swing coach for the first time in years after splitting with Hank Haney. His game was all over the place, and so were his golf balls. Standing on the first tee, defending champion, with huge galleries watching his every move, Tiger pulled his opening drive hard left. The ball took off like a missile and drilled 37-year-old Jeremy May square in the neck. The poor man stumbled backward, clutching his neck, not knowing what just happened. When he finally gathered himself, he looked over at his daughter and her friend standing nearby and said he was just glad they were on the other side of him, or it could have been much worse. And that was just hole number 1. Tiger would go on to hit 2 more spectators that day, one in the leg on the second hole, another in the thumb on the 15th, running through signed gloves like he was handing out business cards. He shot an even par 72, finishing tied for 19th, a dozen shots behind winner Justin Rose. Not exactly the comeback he was hoping for. Next up, you know that feeling when your week is going perfectly, everything's clicking, and you're this close to your biggest dream? That's exactly where Peter Hanson was at the 2012 Masters. The relatively unknown Swedish golfer had just shot an incredible 65 in the 3rd round to grab the solo lead heading into Sunday. One more good round and he'd be slipping on a green jacket. But first, he had to survive one last curveball nobody saw coming. Hanson steps up to the tee on the 8th hole, takes his swing, and immediately knows something's off. The ball veers way off course and hits a guy right in the head. He stumbles back like time has slowed down, arms flailing, barely keeping his balance, completely stunned, like in slow motion too. But don't worry, he survived. Though he probably walked away with one epic headache and a story he'll never forget. Hanson? Well, his magical Masters run didn't end with a fairy tale green jacket. He shot 73 in the final round and finished tied for 3rd, 2 shots behind Bubba Watson. Golf has a funny way of reminding you that even when everything seems perfect, one bad shot can change everything. Up next, who doesn't enjoy kicking back and watching a good golf match? But when you're sitting in the gallery at a major championship, the last thing you expect is to become part of the action, especially when that action involves a golf ball colliding with your skull at high speed. Jon Rahm was making his charge up the leaderboard at the 2025 PGA Championship, finally looking like the major champion everyone remembered before his controversial move to LIV. He was hungry, in contention, playing some of his best golf in over a year. And then on the 11th hole, his approach shot had other ideas. The Spaniard pulled his 6-iron left and the ball sailed across the green. Meanwhile, there's a fan sitting near the green, just enjoying the day, then boom. The ball thudded off his head with enough force to send it careening all the way across to the rough on the opposite side of the green. And Rahm immediately knew he'd just cost himself a shot at catching Scottie Scheffler. Even in those circumstances, he walked over to check on the fan, who miraculously wasn't injured. They shared a few laughs. Rahm signed a glove for him, and the two embraced before he continued his round, trying not to hurt anyone else. This next shot totally reminds me of one of those slow-mo movie scenes where the main character knows their time's up. Luckily, the main character this time was someone else, not us. Jordan Spieth was starting his final round at the 2025 Memorial Tournament, already in classic Spieth fashion. His tee shot on the par 4 first hole went right into the deep rough. No big deal, he'd scramble like he always does. But on his second shot, disaster nearly struck. There was a group of fans standing behind the ropes, basically right in Spieth's line, watching the 3-time major champion try to punch out of trouble. He swung from the rough, and the second the club hit, well, let's just say it did not look good. The ball shot off like a laser, screaming straight for the crowd. It flew just inches over their heads, and people had to duck at the last second. You could see exactly how little time they had to react, with the ball rocketing toward them at head height. We're talking barely a couple of feet. If it had been any lower, someone would have been in the hospital. The most ridiculous part of this whole situation is that despite hitting a terrible tee shot, nearly killing someone with his second shot that traveled only 90 yards, he still got up and down from 22 feet to save par. Classic Spieth. Here we are with the next one. Let me be clear. Standing in the gallery at a golf tournament seems pretty safe, until a ball comes screaming at your face and misses by mere inches. One fan at the 2024 Players' Championship came terrifyingly close to disaster, and the whole thing unfolded in the blink of an eye. It's the third round, and Max Homa finds himself in trouble on the 14th hole. His ball is near some trees, not an ideal spot, but he's got to make something happen. There's a cluster of fans standing just beyond the ropes, watching intently as Homa sets up for his recovery shot. He asks them to move back. They shuffle a few feet. That's it, just a few feet. Homa takes his swing, and immediately things go sideways. The ball slices hard right, rocketing straight toward the spectators. You can hear the gasp. People flinch. Some duck. And then, crack. The ball smashes into a tree just above their heads, literally inches away from disaster. It slammed into a tree, luckily missing the guy because that would have been absolutely brutal. The fans got the scare of their lives. Homa probably aged a few years in that split second. And everyone walked away grateful it hit wood instead of flesh. Now let's travel to the Live Golf's inaugural event at London's Centurion Club. It was already controversial enough, but on the third day of competition, Uihlein managed to create a different kind of headline, one involving a wayward tee shot and one very unlucky spectator. Okay, so Uihlein was in third place overall and standing on the 7th tee, needing a solid drive to keep himself in contention. He took his swing and immediately knew something was wrong. The ball hooked hard left, way off course, and he screamed, "4!" at the top of his lungs. But in a packed gallery with noise and chatter everywhere, his warning came too late. The ball sailed through the air like a heat-seeking missile and smacked directly into a man standing on the side of the fairway, hitting him somewhere in the lower half of his body. The guy went down instantly, collapsing to the ground. In, honestly, this dramatic fashion that's so funny to watch. Meanwhile, Uihlein stood there frozen, hand on his head, visibly shaken and truly worried about what just happened. After that whole show, the guy gets up like nothing happened, and someone in the background goes, "He's alive," which just made it even funnier. Next up. But some golfers hit one bad shot into the crowd and feel terrible about it for the rest of the day. This woman, she did it twice, in a row, to the same person. This clip is old and we don't really find out too much context, but it deserves its place on this list. And for a reason. A woman steps up to the tee, ready to unleash a bomb in front of the crowd. She takes her swing, makes contact, and, oh no, the ball rockets straight into the gallery. For some reason, she gets another shot at the same spot. Let's hope it goes better this time. Well, same swing, same result. The ball flies into the exact same spot and drills the exact same person who's still recovering from the first hit. At this point, the poor victim, now twice a casualty of wayward tee shots, can't take it anymore. Make her cut it out. It's almost impressive in the worst way possible. Lightning doesn't usually strike twice, but apparently, this woman's driver does. Now, a golf ball can do a lot of damage, break a window, dent a car, knock someone out cold. But knocking a diamond clean off an engagement ring? That's a new one. Sergio Garcia managed to pull that off at the 2014 WGC Bridgestone Invitational. And the whole thing turned into an absurd treasure hunt in the middle of a tournament. What happened? Well, Garcia is on the tee, and like he's done countless times before, he pulls his drive. Way left, straight into the gallery. The ball drills a woman's hand, specifically her finger. She winces, clutches her hand, and then looks down at her engagement ring. The diamond is gone. The impact sent the stone flying somewhere into the rough. And now there's a small crowd of people on their hands and knees, searching through the grass like they're panning for gold. For about 20 minutes, players, spectators, and officials are combing through the rough, looking for this tiny sparkle in the grass. And then, miraculously, someone finds it. The diamond is returned. Crisis averted. The woman gets her stone back, Garcia gets to continue his round without feeling like the world's worst person, and everyone walks away with one hell of a story. But seriously, what are the odds? Of all the things a wayward tee shot can hit, it had to be the one piece of jewelry worth thousands of dollars. Coming in next. But some people aren't so lucky. Some accidents change a life forever. One swing, one bad bounce, and a woman would never see the same way again. This is what happened at the 2018 Ryder Cup in Paris, and it's one of the most heartbreaking moments in Brooks Koepka's career. It's Friday morning at Le Golf National. Brooks Koepka is teeing off on the par 4 6th hole, paired with Tony Finau in the opening match. The galleries are massive, 50,000 people packed around the course, and standing somewhere in that crowd is Corinne Ramand, a 49-year-old who traveled all the way from Egypt with her husband to watch the tournament. Koepka pulls his tee shot. It goes way left. He yells "4," but from 300 yards away, in a crowd that big, nobody can hear it. The ball smashes straight into the woman's face, right above her eye. At first, she doesn't feel pain, just blood. Lots of it. Medical staff rush in, but the worst is yet to come. I think the ball arrived in this part of my body in this condition. For me, it's finished. I couldn't speak with you. It's dead. She ended up with a fractured eye socket and her eyeball basically exploded. She lost vision in her right eye, permanently. Koepka called it one of the worst days of his life, saying he was heartbroken that someone lost their sight just because he hit a golf ball. Golf can be dangerous, but this was a tragedy. So far, we've covered all kinds of dangers you face if you're a golf fan who just happens to be there watching the match. But when golf meets the Arizona desert, there's a whole new level of danger waiting. And one fan learned that the hard way. The 2014 WGC Accenture match play, and Rory McIlroy is in a terrible spot during his opening match against Uihlein. His ball is propped up against a stone in the rough, buried in the desert scrub. Not ideal, but Rory's not the kind of guy to just chip out sideways and play it safe. He decides to take a whack at it, trying to muscle the ball toward the green. The second he makes contact, he knows something's wrong. The ball rockets through the air, but it's not going where it should. It screams toward the gallery, straight at a spectator who's standing there. Then, he tumbles straight into a jumping cholla cactus. Now, if you don't know what a jumping cholla is, consider yourself lucky. These things are vicious. Their spines attach themselves to skin with the slightest touch. And this poor guy just fell directly into one. Rory immediately forfeited the hole and moved on, eventually winning the match 3-2. But while Rory walked away fine, the spectator had to stand there while bystanders carefully picked cactus spines out of his back, one painful needle at a time.
This next chapter is what happens when golf wants to watch you suffer. Jordan Spieth enters the 2024 FedEx Cup playoffs, sitting precariously at 48th in the standings. He needs a strong showing at the FedEx St. Jude Championship to advance to the BMW Championship and keep his season alive. But Spieth's season has been defined by one maddening problem: short game struggles, particularly when things get tricky around the greens. So, Spieth finds his ball in the thick rough, just yards from the pin, but with a bunker between him and salvation. It's a delicate shot, requiring perfect touch. First attempt, he catches it heavy, the ball barely clearing the rough and settling in thicker grass. Still short of the green, still not where it needs to be. Second attempt from the rough, another chunky contact. The ball advances but stays stubbornly in the rough, refusing to find the putting surface. What should have been a simple up and down turns into a grinding battle just to find the green. By week's end, he finishes T38, dropping to 54th in the standings. Season over. You know how wind changes everything, right? Well, this time, the wind made it tough for Joseph Bramlett at the 2024 Shriners Children's Open. Friday morning in Las Vegas, and Mother Nature is making chaos. Bramlett had opened with a beautiful 64 on Thursday, sitting just 3 shots off the lead. Now, he's fighting winds that make his pants flap like flags, trying to hold his ground while the desert tries to blow him off the course. He reaches the par 4 first hole and hits a solid approach to 10 feet. Perfect distance for birdie. Easy money on a calm day. But this isn't a calm day. The first putt drifts left in the wind. Miss. He adjusts on the next one, but it lips out. Miss. Now the pressure builds. Another push from close range. Miss. It's getting absurd. The ball circles the cup and refuses to drop. Miss. Finally, from 2 feet, it falls. 5 putts from 10 feet. What should have been a birdie turns into a triple bogey 7. It hurts just to watch. 121 yards out, facing one of golf's most notorious challenges, the island green at TPC Sawgrass. Water everywhere. Thousands of eyes fixed on him. Dustin Johnson, former world number 1, major champion, the guy who can absolutely crush it, steps up. He aims right at the pin, pulls out his wedge, takes his stance, and lets it fly. The shot looks perfect. Dead straight, flawless trajectory. The crowd leans in. This thing is tracking straight for the hole. Then, golf shows its twisted sense of humor. The ball flies beautifully through the air, lands on the green, and there you have it. It smacks the flagstick dead center. A full-on collision that sends the ball ricocheting like a pinball. And where does it go? Straight left, into the water. Johnson can't help but smile at the absurdity of it all. This guy hits it exactly where he's aiming, at the hole, and gets punished for being too accurate. The flagstick, which is supposed to help you see the target, becomes his enemy. From 121 yards out, what should have been a routine birdie chance turned into a double bogey, all because his precision was just a little too good this time. Now there's making a mistake, and then there's what Bob Tway did. Third round of the Players' Championship 2005, and Tway is right where he wants to be. 7 under par, just 4 shots off the lead, cruising toward a weekend charge. TPC Sawgrass has been kind to him through 16 holes. Then he reaches the 17th, the island green. 137 yards of pure terror surrounded by water. But Tway's a seasoned pro, a former PGA championship winner. He's seen this shot 1,000 times. The wind is howling at 25 miles per hour, gusting left to right across the green. Tricky, sure, but nothing he can't handle. He takes his stance, makes what feels like a solid swing, and watches his ball sail long into the water behind the green. Okay, 1 penalty stroke. No big deal. He walks to the drop zone, confident he can get this back on track. Second shot from the drop zone? Same result. Airmail. Splash. Now he's starting to feel it. The pressure creeping in. The crowd murmuring. Third attempt from the drop zone, he tries to dial it back, land it soft on the front edge. Perfect contact. But the ball hits the front of the green and spins backward into the drink. 4 balls in the water and a 5th shot from the drop zone. Same exact thing. Front edge, backspin, water. By the time he finally finds dry land on his 6th shot, he's still 40 feet from the hole. Then he 3-putts. 12. A 9 over par nightmare on a par 3. The highest score ever recorded on the 17th hole. But if you thought it couldn't get any worse, watch this next one where Rory McIlroy was in a greenside bunker on the par 3 6th at Le Golf National. He just tried a routine sand shot. The kind of shot tour pros execute thousands of times in practice. The bread-and-butter escape that separates weekend hackers from world-class players. Europe needed every point, and this should have been simple. Get out, maybe get close, and move on. McIlroy had faced tougher lies, trickier angles, more pressure-packed moments. This was supposed to be automatic. But golf had other plans. Rory caught the lip perfectly, and the ball ricocheted backward like a boomerang. The physics were flawless, the trajectory predictable, yet somehow completely shocking. Instead of finding safety on the putting surface, it took a wicked bounce and rolled straight into the water hazard that guarded the green, as if magnetically drawn to the worst possible outcome. From bunker to splash zone in one swing. It was absurd. A perfect snapshot of Europe's shaky start that Friday morning. The crowd's collective gasp could probably be heard back in Belfast. McIlroy and Olsen eventually lost 4-2, giving the Americans an early lead they desperately needed. But the Ryder Cup is all about momentum, and Europe bounced back to win comfortably. Still, that clip of Rory's ball bouncing into the water is a reminder. In golf, even the pros can get humiliated in a single shot. For 3.5 days at Southern Hills, 27-year-old Mito Pereira was putting on a masterclass. He was calm, confident, leading a major, and doing it like he'd been there 100 times before. Then came the 18th hole on Sunday. One-shot lead, just one good swing, and he's Chile's first major champion. But something's off. His routine looks rushed, his swing feels tense. He steps up and hits a massive push slice that sails straight into the creek. Panic sets in. He drops, flubs the approach, sends the chip long, and misses the bogey putt. Double bogey. He goes from leading the PGA to missing the playoff by one shot. His face says it all, no emotion, just this hollow stare, like even he can't believe it. Meanwhile, Justin Thomas and Will Zalatoris are stunned to find themselves in a playoff. JT wins. And Mito? He walks off the course in silence, knowing he just handed it away on the final hole. One of the most crushing and publicly embarrassing endings in PGA Championship history. Ricky Fowler, one of golf's most popular players, is cruising along at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. He's in the lead. Everything's going great, until it wasn't. Now, we've all had bad breaks in golf, but what happened to Ricky that day was just plain weird. He's standing on the 11th hole, and his ball finds the water. No big deal, right? Happens to the best of them. So he takes his drop on a slope near the green. But then, he turns his back for just a second, and his ball decides to go on a little adventure. It starts rolling and rolling and rolling, right back into the water. And get this, because the ball was technically in play, he gets hit with another penalty stroke. You can just imagine Fowler standing there, watching helplessly as his ball takes that slow roll of doom. The look on his face said it all. Part disbelief, part, "You've got to be kidding me," and part, "What did I do to deserve this?" But here's what makes this story even better, or worse, depending on how you look at it. This wasn't just any ordinary round. This was the final round, and Fowler was trying to win the tournament. The amazing part? Despite this triple bogey, Fowler actually went on to win the tournament. But not before recording the highest final round score by a winner in tournament history. The Masters is just getting underway, and South African star Ernie Els, nicknamed the Big Easy for his smooth, flowing swing, is about to experience a moment that was anything but easy. If you've ever had the yips while putting, you can relate to what happened next, but probably not this bad. Els was playing the first hole. After missing the green, he chipped to within 3 feet. A knee knocker, but nothing a 4-time major champion can't handle, right? What happened next was like watching a car crash in slow motion. His first putt missed, then the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth. By the time he finally got the ball in the hole, Els had taken 6 putts from 3 feet away. Yep, 6. He walked off with a 9 on a par 4, and the tournament had barely started. The crowd went silent. The commentators couldn't find words. Even Els looked like he'd seen a ghost. Later, he tried explaining it, saying he literally couldn't pull the putter back, like his body just froze. He said it felt like having snakes in his head. The yips had claimed another victim, but never so dramatically or painfully as this.